Hello and welcome back to another episode of Finklecast. Finally, after this month and a half, I have found time to be able to record and go over tons of stuff that I'm excited for and I'm currently enjoying for shows and movies. During the last two episodes that I made, I started a new job and I've been currently working at this job for the past month and still am, and that's why I was super busy. Didn't have a lot of time to stop, take a breath, and to record anything, but I did have a lot of time to watch shows and movies in my downtime. I'm hoping that I can get some more free time soon so I can keep getting more episodes out weekly. But if I don't get them out weekly, I might have at least 2 episodes out per month, but we'll see how things go. But let's get started with this episode. Over the course of the past month and a half, a couple of shows have come out that I have been really enjoying. And to my surprise, the Lord of the Rings show, The Rings of Power, has been absolutely great. I'll be honest, I had huge doubts. I went in with zero expectations whatsoever, and I am genuinely surprised. Now, there has been a lot of people who do not like this show. If you go on Rotten Tomatoes, they've given it a pretty decent score, I think, of 83%, but the fans have given it down in the 30s. And the reviews are actually kind of funny, but they are just tearing this show apart. Now, like I've said in the past, I am a incredibly huge Lord of the Rings fan. I love the movies. Whatever I've read of the books, I have so thoroughly enjoyed. I'm still going to try my best to go into every single episode with zero expectations, but so far so good, and I'm so excited to see what's going to happen next. Let's get into the spoilers of this. As usual, if you don't want to hear anything that is going to be a spoiler, just stop now, click pause, and come back later. Now, if I'm correct, this show is taking place in the Silmarillion area, which is the second age of Middle-earth, and the unfinished tales and the appendices of the books are all being incorporated into this show. It seems that a good chunk of the focus of this show is going to be going after Sauron. Sauron is still a huge villain within the Second Age, and Lady Galadriel is hunting for him. The only thing that's a little interesting is that Lady Galadriel is a very regal, calm and collected, and godlike elf. But in this show, I guess it's a younger version of her. Not I guess. She is a very younger version of Lady Galadriel, and she is on a vengeance path because her brother died at the hands of Sauron, and she wants to make sure that Middle-earth is safe from him entirely. Obviously, we know that he does get defeated once, but then he comes back, and in Return of the King is when he officially is defeated. So I'm curious to see how they're going to go with this throughout this show. The characters that play Elrond, Lady Galadriel, all of the actors seem perfect for the roles they've been given, and I'm surprised. I'm going to keep saying it. I'm just surprised on how much I enjoyed this show so far. Now, watching the second episode, I picked up on something that actually makes a lot of sense. Since the show is actually called The Rings of Power, it would make sense that they're going to actually introduce all of the Rings of Power. And I believe that's going to be the entire premise of this show, which, like I said, makes sense. The Rings of Power have not been created yet. And the person who creates this Celebrimbor, he is the person who's going to make all of the Rings of Power for the elves, the dwarves, the men, for the wizards, I think. Unless the wizards already have those, I could be wrong. And that's what's going to be in this first season. I am definitely a full believer that there's going to be more than just this one season. I think they're going to go further and draw this out, which I'm okay with. As long as it's good, keep making more of it. This last Friday, episode 3 was released, and it just gave more and more and more, and it was so good. So, again, spoilers. Lady Galadriel and the character Helbrand, the person that she found on the shipwreck in episode 2, have found themselves in Numenor, and they have a sailor in the middle of the sea help them, and he is the one and only Elendil. And of course, if you do not know Elendil, he is the father of Isildur, and they are the father and son in the beginning intro of the Fellowship of the Ring movie, and we get to see both of their younger selves in episode 3. Elendil is captain of the Knights Guard, I believe, and Isildur is supposed to be going on and being a sailor himself. Now, Isildur is the one who picks up the broken sword in the Fellowship of the Ring and cuts Sauron and defeats Sauron with the sword. So that's who he is, and we get to see his younger self in episode 3. So cool. We also get to see a lot of orcs in this episode, which I have been waiting for. There's nothing better than a Lord of the Rings film with orcs. And it seems like they did a really good job with the makeup of the orcs. None of it's computer generated, and if it is, it's mildly touched up, but it seems very makeup based, like the first three Lord of the Rings movies. So good. There's more progression with this stranger that fell out of the meteor into the sky next to these hobbit-like creatures. So, still don't know who he is. I'm still thinking he could be Gandalf. I'm not sure. I don't think he is because I Googled it, and it doesn't seem like Gandalf enters Middle-earth in that way. If he does or doesn't, they could be contradicting the books. I'm not sure. But the only thing that was a really good kicker, and obviously a cliffhanger for this episode, and we'll find out in episode 4, is they call this person Adar, and that is another elven name for Sauron. And it seems like he's walking up in the end of this episode towards the orcs, and you see his blurred face, and then the scene cuts. I hope it is Sauron. I hope it's a young Sauron. I'm just getting really excited. I'm shaking. But now on to the second show that was released, which is The House of Dragons. This is a prequel series before Game of Thrones, and it has to deal with the Targaryens, who are now the lords and the kings of the Seven Kingdoms. So far, so good. People have been going nuts over this show, and I really do enjoy it. But in my opinion, it's still going a little slow. Obviously, the first season of any show is building the story. The first season of Game of Thrones did the same exact thing, which is fine. But it seems within these first 3 episodes, again, spoilers, that they are just sticking to the same thing of the king and his daughter arguing back and forth. And then Matt Smith, he's a former Doctor Who, he is playing the uncle of this princess. They're just having these like family quarrels within these first 3 episodes. And it's just kind of repetitive. Obviously, there is still a season to finish, but after this, I think they need to just keep moving forward. We're 3 episodes in. 4th episode was yesterday. Now I'm recording this. It's going to be Sunday, but they need to keep going forward. They're like taking pauses and just having these constant arguments that we've seen for 3 episodes. But like I said, so far so good. And again, I'm excited to see what they're going to do with the show. We already have dragons in the first season. It took about, 6, maybe like 4 or 5 seasons in Game of Thrones to get the dragons out. First episode, they're flying around, so that was exciting. But on Game of Thrones news, they just released an entire sheet of what shows are to come, and I'm a little curious about this. So apart from Game of Thrones and House of Dragons, there's 6 other shows that are going to be released, and they are called 10,000 Ships, The Hedge Knight, Snow, which is going to be a sequel story to Jon Snow. I don't know how they're going to do that because I feel like Jon Snow's story is already told. His story was in Game of Thrones. I would want to maybe hear something prequel, like family, the Targaryens leading into Jon Snow, but anyway, there's also another show called The Golden Empire and The Sea Snake. And then there's an untitled animated series because, these days everyone's doing an animated series. But I'm always open to new things and new shows from any type of series, and I guess we'll have to see what happens. The other show that I just started watching, and actually I just binged watched it this past Friday, is Cobra Kai Season 5. I didn't think I was going to finish the show in time to be able to talk about it for this week's episode, but I binged the crap out of that show so quick that I finished it, and it was such a good season. Again, spoilers, come back if you don't want to hear what I'm talking about. But this season takes place right after Season 4, of course, and Terry Silver is now trying to take Cobra Kai global. So Danny and he brought in Chosen from Karate Kid 2. They are trying to go and foil all of his plans. Johnny is doing his own thing at the moment. He's trying to find Miguel in Mexico, which he does. He's trying to hold his family together. And this season, he got Miguel's mom, Carmen, pregnant. So now he's trying to get this family life figured out. And then halfway through this season, the whole thing with Terry Silver and Daniel LaRusso is getting huge. And it's getting really hot. And Daniel gets beat up by Terry. So then Johnny steps in. And now it's all hands on deck. Since Terry Silver is the main villain, they brought some other characters from Karate Kid 3 into the mix, including the girl that Daniel LaRusso is hanging around with in the 3rd film. She's actually Daniel's wife's cousin. Funny how they made that work. And they also bring Mike Barnes, which is the Johnny Lawrence and Chosen of the Karate Kid 3. he's in there. I thought instantly that Terry Silver and him were in cahoots. I thought they were together as a team. It seemed like he had really bad acting, but I guess that's just him, and he's not. He's actually good in this one, and at the very end for the season finale fight, Mike Barnes, Johnny Lawrence, and Chosen, the three Daniel LaRusso bullies, are coming in and they're fighting together. What an awesome season finale for that. And Chosen is one of the best characters of the show. I'm so glad they brought him back and that he's good. And he is just a freaking assassin in this show. It's so good. It's definitely one of those shows that I could sit here for 3 to 4 hours just going on and on about, but we don't have that kind of time here. This season was just so good. There's so much to talk about. If you're a fan of Cobra Kai, I just encourage you to go watch it. It's a great show. You won't be disappointed. And like I said before, I'm contradicting myself because I said that House of Dragons was repetitive, but this is one of those shows that it doesn't matter if it's repetitive. It's because it's just filled with nostalgia. You could watch like 10, 15, 20 seasons of this show, and they can keep repeating themselves over and over again, but it's a karate show. Of course you're going to love it. They just said, or I guess it's a leak, that there's going to be a 6th season, maybe more than the 6th season, and I'm all for it. Other than those 3 new shows, I have been watching older shows. I just started watching How I Met Your Mother. I never decided to watch that show up until recently, and it's actually a really good half-hour sitcom. I was surprised in how much I liked it. I am a Friends fan, and that is one of my favorite half-hour sitcoms that's kind of like How I Met Your Mother, so I've always just stuck to watching that, and I never really gave How I Met Your Mother a chance. Now I started watching it. I'm binging it. I'm halfway through the whole show. And another show that I'm watching is Yellowstone. What an absolutely amazing show. Again, I'm not a huge Western fan. I like Westerns that take place in the 1800s, but modern day Westerns and modern day cowboys, not a huge fan of. I always knew I was going to like this show. I just didn't have time and I didn't put it on my list to watch. Well, I'm almost done. I'm on the 4th season and it is an incredible show. Absolutely love it. I'm not a huge Kevin Costner fan, but when it comes to this show, this part was made for him as John Dutton. What a great part. But other than that, this is going to be a shorter episode because I'm short on time like I have been for the past month and a half. All these shows are still airing, so things are still coming out, and I'm still watching them. The Star Wars shows are still coming out. Andor was pushed along with Bad Batch Season 2. Kind of upset about that, but, I have a lot I'm watching right now anyway, so it's kind of good that they're spacing things out. As far as Marvel, She-Hulk is currently out. I'm going to wait until that's fully aired and I'll watch that on one go. I'm not really excited about that. When it comes to Marvel, I'm just holding out for Loki Season 2 and any movies that are coming out. I'm kind of over the whole TV show scene with Marvel, and I'm just ready to keep moving forward. But that is it for today's episode. Sorry if it sounded kind of rushed. I'm still pressed for time. Hopefully I have more days where I can just spend more time recording and editing and putting more into it. But I hope I can get another episode out in a couple weeks. And that time I'll have watched more things. I've watched more episodes of all of my shows, House of Dragons, Lord of the Rings, and I can talk about those things. Thank you for listening. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe, and I will catch you on the next Finklecast.